And now we are joined by Ben Ellis, the Cage Warriors featherweight, 3-0 as a pro. He fights Manny Akpan on March 18th for the Cage Warriors trilogy. Ben, before we get into your latest fight and looking back at the Crawford fight, how did you get into MMA?
So my grandfather was a professional boxer. So as we were growing up, he said that whether we like it or not, we're going to know how to defend ourselves. Like obviously his intention was he never really wanted us to fight, but there's always going to be one who wants to test in there. So I was testing it boxing. And then as soon as I found out what MMA was, and you just learn the reality of if you're a boxer and someone takes you down, that's the end of that. And then I started the MMA rabbit hole then, and then just, kept going.
And you've been obviously quite successful, 8-0 as an amateur and 3-0 as a pro. But have you suffered any setbacks that no one has kind of witnessed, like any injuries or anything that has kind of made you question yourself?
No, to be honest, fingers crossed, I've been okay. I broke my hands a couple of times early on in boxing, more just because I was wearing tiny gloves, little 8-ounce gloves, slamming the bag. And it wasn't until like 6 months down the line, the coach pulled me to one side and said, "Mate, you literally don't need to be hitting the bag like that." I was like, "Oh, thanks. Where was that advice 6 months ago after like 3 handbrakes?" But other than that, no, I think that was okay. Like I said, I wasn't undefeated in boxing. I had a decent boxing record, but not undefeated. So I had a few losses there. But at the same time, I was a kid. I was only a teenager, so it's a bit different. But it definitely prepared me for MMA. And then, fingers crossed, no setbacks in MMA.
How did you go from being a boxer, like originally starting out as boxing, to go into kind of a grappler and wanting to take the fights and kind of in that direction?
So I did a jiu-jitsu class, and like as is pretty common, I turned up. They put me with one of the experienced guys. 10 seconds in, I'm in an arm triangle. 20 seconds after that, I'm in an arm triangle, and he just kept doing the same thing. And then say ego kicks in, then it. So it either goes you quit and you never come back, or you want to learn. And I was just one of those who wanted to learn. So that's how I started.
We haven't really seen your jiu-jitsu necessarily in Cage Warriors in the professional fights. Is that something you kind of want to show going on in your career? Obviously, you've only had 3 professional fights, but you've had 2 knockout victories from ground and pound. So what do you think we will see that more from you? Or
I think as time goes on, you'll probably see everything. There's going to be fights where maybe I struggle to take it down. You're going to see a lot of like kickboxing. Maybe another fight I'll be in the clinch. You'll get to see that Thai clinch. And again, as time goes on, more and more questions will get asked. More questions will get answered. I'll just keep answering the questions, keep winning, and then all good.
And in your latest victory, it was a unanimous decision over Kingsley Crawford. How do you reflect on that performance now, looking back at it? It's been a few months. And what did the victory mean to you, considering you had to grind for it?
So to be honest, I was disappointed with the performance. It was one of those, it was a year outside the cage. And then by the time it came around to fighting, I'd fallen into a mentality of, because again, it wasn't just a year out of the cage. I'd done 2 fight camps with fights that fell through before that. So I'd slipped into a mindset of, just don't mess this up. Don't do all of this work to lose. So I thought I kind of fought like that. I fought like with a bit of tension, which I don't normally have. Disappointed, to be honest. My coaches weren't happy with that either. I didn't really think I had to grind too much for it. I thought I won the first 2 rounds dead easily. And then in the 3rd round, my mentality was he's going to try something wild to try and win. And then I just played it safe, where if I just kept going the way I was going, I would have taken him down and pinned him down anyway. Pretty disappointed in that. The coaches definitely weren't happy with me. It's one of those in there. You have to get the job done even when you're not on. So
I do agree with you. It's quite a comfortable victory in terms of how he won the first 2 rounds. Then just the last round was him just coming at you. After the fight, there was obviously some words exchanged. Like, what was said there? Because it looked like you were quite angry at his reaction.
So I offered to shake hands. And he said no. So then I just told him he's a prick. And And that, to be honest, that was probably all there was to it. Like, I'm not one of those, like, when I fight someone, you know, a lot of guys like to act super friendly. I'm not really like that. Like, I don't know these people. Like, I might know of them because I've seen them fight on TV or whatever, but we're certainly not friends. If they want to shake hands before the fight, then no dramas. I won't touch gloves in the cage just because I've seen too many people go to touch gloves and then the other guy strikes. So I'm not going to do that. But then it's a pretty common rule in MMA that when the fight's over, whatever way it's gone, you man up, shake hands, and then you might not have to be friends, but you show like that little bit of respect to shake hands. And he didn't want to. So yeah, I told him what I thought of that. And then he started mumbling some stuff about not being tired and this and that. And I was a bit like, well, mate, if you're not tired, you should have worked a bit harder, because going into that third round, you clearly 2 rounds down. You had to do something pretty well. You had to sub me or knock me out. And yeah, I just didn't think he made a lot of sense. I just don't really get it, but whatever, it is done now.
Did it make it any sweeter that he was taking it in a bad way that you've won?
After the fact, yeah. After that, yeah, some people said how angry he was. I think he was just angry because he struggled to hit me too much. Like, if you watch the fight and you count how many shots he lands, there's not many of them, so I can see why he was annoyed. But at the time, I was just a little bit more annoyed with myself. But then after the fact, when people are like, "Oh, how pissed off is he?" You just can't help but laugh.
And now looking at your upcoming fight, you're fighting another undefeated fighter. Would you say this is your toughest test to date upcoming?
He's in the conversation. Maybe not. I think probably my toughest competition is probably still some of the amateur fights. The last 2 or 3 amateur fights. But my coach is literally saying to promoters, like, Ben will fight whoever, but they've got to be good. Like, they've got to be, 7-0, 8-0, 9-0, 10-0, whatever. Otherwise, he's not going to do it. Like, I want to see him pushed as an amateur. So I had a few tough fights at amateur. And I'd still say some of them would probably be my toughest test in terms of how good the opponent is. But he's not bad. He's all right. I think I'm going to smoke him, to be honest. But he's definitely someone who deserves respect. And yeah, I'll give that to him. But I'm going to beat him.
How has your preparation been for the fight?
Really good, to be honest. I feel a bit selfish because with the COVID rules, obviously it's not a good time to be a gym owner. But then with me being allowed to train, it just means that I get all that extra attention because there's nobody else there who's not part of the pro team. So yeah, you almost feel a bit guilty when preparation's going really well. But it's been good. It's been brutal. It's not far off being done now. Fight a week Thursday, so I'll have a few more days hard training, but probably not too much contact. And then it's basically just a wake up from there then.
So have you been training by yourself for a majority of the time?
No, I do next to nothing on my own, to be honest. So it's either with my coaches, members of the pro team, who are allowed to be training. And then in terms of like when I do my conditioning, I do a lot of that stuff with my brother. So yeah, I've done pretty much nothing on my own.
Have you been spending a lot of time with Lau Long as well, or has that not really happened for this upcoming fight?
Yeah, every day.
Every day.
Every day, twice a day. He's so good. I think everyone who's trained with him knows how good he is. And he's a big boy as well. So yeah, no, I've definitely had my ass handed to me a few times, but again, it's all going to come full circle. And when I clinch up with someone who's my weight, after 10 weeks of clinching up with Lou, just know it's not going to feel the same thing. Not from a skill perspective or size perspective.
With that kind of style you have in terms of how you get the takedowns, you are so successful with the takedowns. If you go for one, you're going to get it, and then once you get them down, you're kind of mauling them. It's kind of similar to Khabib, and many have branded you the Welsh Khabib. How have you took that? Has there been some kind of pressure for you, or do you like that comparison?
Nah, it's just a little bit of a joke. It started off like with the boys in the gym, just because I am quite relentless, and like we've got some, we'll say Aaron Khalid and Lou Long, both of them are welterweights. And when I spar with them, I'm trying to take them down relentlessly. I may not get it because say they're both good boys and they're both a lot bigger than me, but they know I'm not going to stop. So for that, they're just like, mate, just fuck off. You're like Khabib, where you just don't stop trying to take us down if I'm trying to take them down. And then it was just a joke from there, obviously, because I knocked that guy out from half guard. They relate to the ground and pound. I'm quite good at tying people up on the ground. But nah, it's no pressure. It's just a bit of a joke, really.
Do you think that power you have from the top position is kind of like different to other fighters in terms of we don't really see that because we don't necessarily see people knock out people from half guards? It kind of makes you special in a way.
Yeah, I think so. To be honest, it kind of caught me by surprise. Just obviously, my first martial art was boxing, and I never would have said I had crazy boxing power. I always seemed to cut people. I don't know why. But whenever I used to have a boxing fight, something like the other guy would get cut, but like not necessarily concussively knocked about. But I mean, I won my first pro fight with ground and pound, second pro fight with ground and pound. I know I didn't finish him, but when I hit Kingsley on the floor, or when he was on his way to the floor in the first round of that last fight, I think his reaction was pretty drastic. He just bailed on the whole situation. So yeah, it's good. You know what it's like sometimes, especially if you don't know jiu-jitsu, you watch a fight and you're a bit like, oh, just, half paying attention, half eating pizza, half talking to the boys. But then when there's a guy fighting and everyone's saying, yeah, look, you can spark someone from here, it kind of keeps that attention, which is nice. I just want to finish people. So it's nice to have that little cheat code.
What does the future hold for you, do you think? Because you're not too far from that featherweight title now. Once you start getting the bigger names and the tougher tests for you, how many fights do you think you are away realistically?
I think I'll either fight for the belt in 4 fights time or 5. So there's 4 trilogies this year. So the one coming up in March, I think it's June, August, and December. So at the end of them, I'll be 7-0. I think the 7-0 will either be for the belt or 8-0. To be honest, I don't really think about it. I just think of fights individually, and then it just so happens that if you win your fights, a byproduct of it is that you go up the ranks, you fight for belts, so on and so forth. But it's like if you're that type of person who's planning how much money he's going to make, planning what X, Y, Z, and then before you know it, he loses his fights and he's, I don't know, say 4-1, 4-2. It starts to look the other way real quick. So yeah, I just focus on winning the fights.
And there's a featherweight title coming up soon. Who do you have in that fight, Jordan Vucenic or Morgan Charriere?
I think it's going to be really, really close. I spoke to a few people. They seem to be favoring Charriere, but I don't really see it like that. Like Jordan's got good stand up. It looks like he's got pretty good wrestling as well. Charriere doesn't look to wrestle, but his wrestling defense is pretty good. So I think that may negate itself, and they're just going to end up basically having a Muay Thai fight in MMA gloves. So I think it's going to be a really good fight to watch. I'm pretty looking forward to it, to be honest.
Do you have a prediction for that fight?
Nah, I tell you why, because I haven't seen too much of either of them. And I'm one of those real sad guys where if I haven't proper studied something, I don't like predicting. But I tell you what, screw it, I will. I reckon Jordan's going to do it. Just based on the fact that I think Jordan's 6-1, 7-1. He's not really used to losing, and he's taken tough fights. Whereas as good as Charriere is, his record's not the best. Like, he wins a few and then he picks up a loss. He's kind of got that not habit, but he does pick up losses. Whereas with Jordan, that's a lot less so. I think that could lead to Jordan getting the job done.
Just quickly looking at Welsh MMA in general, you in the Cage Warriors, you're the next big prospect. Obviously, there has been Mason Jones, there's been Jack Shaw who have made it into UFC. Jack Shaw's supposedly fighting soon, and he is, branded by a lot in America. He's well known now as well. Does that kind of draw any inspiration for you to kind of want to achieve what those two have gone on to achieve?
Probably not so much inspiration, just because I fight because I want to fight, and I don't really care about any of the other stuff that comes with it. For me, it's just literally a legal way to get into a scrap. but like having said that, Jack and Mason are doing so well. So yeah, I've trained with both of them in the past. They're both really nice boys. And I think they're going to do awesome. And they're both amazing ambassadors for Welsh MMA as well. So yeah, definitely chuffed a bit they're doing as well as they're doing. But nah, in terms of inspiration, I just want to have a scrap.
And looking at your upcoming scrap, what is your prediction for that? How do you see it going?
I think I'll stop him late in the first or early in the second. Either with him pinned up against the cage or on the floor against the cage. He's good. He's not bad, but like he's kind of wild. He's like a Hail Mary fighter. Like you'll see him throw up jumping triangles, spinning this, jumping that. And if you're in front of someone who gets not intimidated is the wrong word, but like kind of startled by that, then it can really work for you before you know it. The other guy's backing up, thinking about what could come in. But then against somebody like me who's just gonna capitalize on everything that you're doing, that's high risk. I think before you know it, he's going to be really tired and just getting the shit hit out of him. But we'll see. I'm sure he's got a different plan. But yeah, I'm pretty confident.
Have you got anybody else in the pipeline that you want to fight if you do manage to get the victory?
So I saw, I don't know, I can't remember who did it, but somebody did like rankings for Cage Warriors. So like just to reel off like a couple of them that spring to mind. You got obviously Charriere as the champion, Jordan fighting Charriere, Paul Hughes, James Hendon, Steve Amable, Aiden Stephen, the Swedish guy they signed, Tobias Harilla, Emre Somnes. I think there's a couple more that I'm forgetting, but anybody like that, basically any featherweight that's fought on one of the last few trilogies. Like you say, to be the champion, you're gonna have to beat. Well, say there's 10 of them, I'm gonna have to beat at least half of them, or 6 or 7 of them, to be considered the best. So it doesn't really matter to me which ones I beat and which one I don't. But yeah, any one of them will be good fun.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and I wish you all the best on March 18th.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.